For years, we've been told that football is a simple game. It's played on grass, in the rain, often in the cold, and usually with a pervasive sense of impending heartbreak, especially here in North Wales. We are used to the grit, we are used to the fight. But what happens when the script gets flipped so violently, so beautifully, that reality starts to look like a Hollywood blockbuster? What happens when the racecourse ground isn't just a stadium, but a portal to a world that, quite frankly, shouldn't exist for a club in our position? We often talk about the Wrexham effect from the stands, the atmosphere, the global fan base, the sheer noise. But rarely do we get to peel back the curtain and see what it truly feels like for the men inside the dressing room. We assume it's good, we assume the pay is decent, but is it really that different from any other job in the Football League? Well, Stephen Fletcher, a man who has played at the very highest level, a man who has scored in the Premier League and represented his country, has just pulled up a chair and spilt the beans. And let me tell you, what he has to say doesn't just confirm our suspicions, it blows them out of the water. He's recently opened up about his 2 years at the club, and the stories he's telling sound less like a footballer's memoir and more like an episode of Entourage. From private jets to playing golf with Goodfellas, Fletcher describes a culture shock that goes beyond football. It is a testament to how Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney haven't just bought a football club, they have completely dismantled the hierarchy of English football. Today, we are going deep into Fletcher's revelations. We are going to analyze the psychological impact of this Hollywood treatment on the squad, and why, for a veteran like Fletcher, these crazy years in North Wales meant more than all his time in the top flight. Strap in, because this is the reality of Wrexham AFC.
Let's start with the material reality. The day-to-day existence of a footballer in League Two is usually fairly standard. You get your kit, you get your training schedule, maybe a protein shake if the budget allows. It is gritty work. But Stephen Fletcher has revealed that walking into the Wrexham dressing room was like stepping into a different dimension. A dimension where the concept of League Two simply did not apply to the amenities. Fletcher admits with a tone of genuine disbelief that the perks he received at Wrexham eclipsed anything he experienced in the Premier League. Just let that sink in for a second. We are talking about the Premier League, the richest league in the world, the promised land. And yet here is a striker saying that Wrexham, a club that was recently scrapping to get out of the National League, treated them better. He talks about the sponsors. We see the logos on the shirts, United Airlines, HP, and to us, they are just brands. But to the players, they represent a deluge of gifts that is frankly unheard of at this level. Fletcher describes walking into the dressing room to find laptops and high-end goodie bags waiting on their seats. He recalls thinking, "We're in League Two. What is going on here?" This isn't just about free stuff. Psychologically, this is a masterstroke by the ownership. When you treat players like Champions League stars while they are playing in the 4th tier, you aren't just spoiling them, you are elevating their self-worth. You are telling them, you are elite, act like it. It creates a cognitive dissonance where the players feel compelled to perform at a level that matches the treatment they are receiving. Fletcher says the owners, Ryan and Rob, actively encouraged the players to take advantage of them. It wasn't a transaction, it was a partnership. The absurdity of receiving global brand treatment while preparing for a match against Crawley Town or Sutton United cannot be overstated. It completely rewires the professional standard. For a veteran like Fletcher, who has seen the cynical side of the game, this generosity wasn't just a perk, it was a statement of intent. It signaled that Wrexham wasn't just passing through these leagues, they were too big to be contained by them.
If the laptops and the goodie bags were the starter, the main course of Fletcher's revelation is the travel, the pre-season tours. Now, historically, a League Two pre-season tour might involve a coach trip to Scotland, or perhaps a week in a modest resort in Portugal if the treasurer's feeling adventurous. Wrexham, we went to Las Vegas, we went to Los Angeles. Fletcher describes the surreal nature of boarding United Airlines flights to the west coast of America. This is the stuff of Manchester United or Real Madrid. But it wasn't just the destination, it was the reception. He talks about playing against Chelsea in front of massive crowds. He talks about the red carpet lifestyle that suddenly thrust itself upon a group of lads who, for the most part, had spent their careers in the lower leagues of English football. There is a brilliant anecdote he shares about a red carpet event in LA. The squad was suited and booted by Marks & Spencer, another sponsor of course. They are standing there, lights flashing, cameras rolling, treated like absolute royalty. And Fletcher, with that grounded humour, admits, "I'm sure hardly anyone knew who we were." That moment captures the beautiful absurdity of the Wrexham project. You have these honest, hard-working professionals, names that are heroes to us in the Kai Ras, but unknown to the Hollywood paparazzi, standing shoulder to shoulder with the elite. It's the ultimate fish-out-of-water scenario, but instead of drowning, they thrived. This exposure does something to a team. It bonds them in a way that training drills never could. Sharing that experience, looking at your teammate, your mate from the trenches of League Two, and realizing you are both standing on a red carpet in Los Angeles creates a camaraderie that is unbreakable. It builds a collective narrative. It's us against the world, and look where we are. Fletcher highlights the time he spent with Elliot Lee in LA after the Vegas trip. These weren't just holidays, they were the forging of a team spirit within the fires of a Hollywood furnace. It transformed them from a football team into a brotherhood living out a fantasy.
However, the crowning jewel of Fletcher's stories, the one that truly sounds like a fever dream, is the golf trip. This is where the barrier between the working-class roots of football and the glitz of Tinseltown completely dissolves. Rob McElhenney calls Fletcher up, just a casual call from the owner. "Do you want to play golf?" So, Fletcher and Elliot Lee head out. Rob takes them to a club that is exclusively for Hollywood A-listers. Imagine the scene, two lads who earn their living battling centre-halves in the rain, now standing on a tee box surrounded by icons. Fletcher lists them off casually. People from Home Alone, Entourage, John McEnroe was there. But the kicker, the absolute peak of this story, playing golf with Joe Pesci. Yes, that Joe Pesci, the man from Goodfellas and Casino. Fletcher describes trying to make small talk with Joe Pesci while he's teeing off. It is a collision of worlds that is almost impossible to script. You cannot write this stuff because nobody would believe it. Yet amidst all this star-studded madness, Fletcher drops the most poignant truth of all. He reflects on his career. He looks back at his time at Hibs, winning the League Cup at 21, thinking trophies would be normal. They weren't. He spent the vast majority of his career fighting relegation. The stress, the grind, the constant fear of the drop. That is the reality for 90% of professional footballers. And then came Wrexham. He calls these 2 years the best of my career. Not because of the laptops or the red carpets or even Joe Pesci, but because for the first time in a long time, he was part of a winner. He was leaving a team that had just been relegated, Dundee United, to join a rocket ship that achieved back-to-back promotions. The Hollywood glamour was fun, yes, but the deep, resounding satisfaction came from the success on the pitch, fueled by owners who cared enough to treat them like kings. It validates everything we believe about this club. The magic isn't just the cameras, it's the winning.
Listening to Stephen Fletcher, you get a sense of profound gratitude, not just for the material things, but for the experience of feeling important again. In modern football, players are often treated as commodities, assets to be bought and sold, depreciating in value until they are discarded. What Ryan and Rob have done is restore the humanity and the joy to the profession for these lads. Fletcher's stories, from the HP laptops to the fairways with Hollywood legends, are entertaining, certainly. They make for great headlines. But underneath the humor and the disbelief lies a serious message about culture. Wrexham didn't win back-to-back promotions simply because they had more money. They won because they built an environment where players felt 10 feet tall. They created a culture where a League Two player felt like a Premier League star, and consequently, played like one. Fletcher admits it is still quite raw, but his verdict is clear. The best years of his life weren't at the Stadium of Light or Molineux. They were right here, wearing the red dragon. That is the power of this club. That is the power of this story. And as we look forward to the challenges of League One and beyond, we can be rest assured that this unique, crazy, wonderful culture is the engine driving us forward. The Hollywood script continues, and we are all lucky enough to be watching it unfold. Up the town.